Do the trashy pulp novels of the world have anything to offer? Are bestsellers all they're hyped up to be? The Terrible Book Club explores whether or not you really can judge a book by its cover or its ridiculous synopsis. If you've ever seen a book and thought, ugh, who's reading this? We probably are.
In the past, we've hunted for predators on the digital superhighway of the internet. But that's not the only place they can lurk. In this sleepy small town that could be anywhere in America, we found a lady of the lake who was looking for something more than just another day in the water. After speaking with our undercover operative at the lake's edge for a few days, she was ready to lure him into the depths with her lascivious tactics and siren song. That is, until we stepped on her tail. Merma'am, what are you doing here?
I'm just swimming in the public lake.
With an underage boy?
Everyone's underage to me. I'm 300.
Do you know how old Sam is?
No, we've never talked age.
Well, the medallion transcript here says he told you that he was in high school.
Well, when I was turned into a mermaid, I was 16.
Ma'am, it doesn't matter what you look like. What matters is your age.
Who are you, anyway?
Do you watch TV?
No, I live inside of a lake.
Well, I'm Friss Handsome, and I work for Moonline MLC. You may have seen my show. To Catch a Cryptozoological Creep? You're on it right now.
No, I can't risk exposure. No one can know the secret of Moonlight. I don't have to sit here. Take this.
Man, have a seat, please. Hello and welcome to episode 86 of the Terrible Book Club. I'm Chris, and this is Paris.
Hello.
I had to turn off Friss Handsome for a second there. I feel like I'm still in it. Okay, there I am.
Woo!
Back to Chris.
I'm back. I'm no longer a mermaid. All right, sick.
Oh, well, hello, everyone. This is it's a sweltering day. Well, not sweltering, but it's hot out here. And we're here with your hot patron picks. This one was selected by our patron, Kieran, and we read The Secret of Moon Lake by Sofia Nova. Right? No, it's Gloria. Guess what, guys? It's another Gloria Tesch book.
Yeah, actually, we had multiple patrons and people message us about this, so, it had to be done, but this is technically for Kieran, so thank you so much for your support, Kieran, and we hope you enjoy this episode. This episode is actually the first in our two-part month of Maradonia. We did this last year in May, but this year we had to push it to June, but you will still be getting 2 back-to-back episodes relating to Maradonia. So, people just ask for it all year long. I don't know. Y'all really fucking love this Maradonia shit, so here we are again.
Yeah, somewhat of a recurring theme for us, I suppose, which I feel mixed about. But, it's a good content mine, I guess you could say, and this one was, definitely out of the usual Maradonia stuff since it's not Maradonia, and it's not even listed under Gloria Tesch's real name. She's going by Sofia Nova here instead. Perhaps a rebranding attempt.
Yeah, so we've actually only read the first Maradonia book kind of on our own, and all of the other Maradonia-related content have been patron requests. So this is like, we're not choosing this. The patrons are.
Yeah.
And
we're beholden to their money.
Yeah, and if you're interested to know more about Gloria Tesch, her family, and the Maradonia book series, you can check out episodes 11, 62, and 63 of Terrible Book Club. Other people on the internet have done deeper dives on the family and the series via blogs and such. But, sometimes it's necessary for us to talk about the author and her family for appropriate context, but we do our best to focus on the books themselves and not get too mired in the muck there.
We're really trying to evaluate the book on its own merits here, which we're definitely going to be trying to do here, mostly outside of comparisons to Maradonia, but there's some things about it that you just got to compare to Maradonia because it's the same. Some things are same.
Yeah. So if you've never listened to this show before, what we do at the Terrible Book Club is read books that we assume will be bad. And we assume they're bad based on a weird cover, a bad title, a bonker summary, or some combination of those three things. So we do the opposite of what most people do when they're browsing in a bookstore or scrolling through Amazon. Usually this experiment results in a hilariously disappointing read, but once in a while we end up liking the book. And of course we have episodes like today's Patron's Choice episode where we read books that our patrons request us to read. For content warnings today, weirdly, we kind of just have one thing we got to talk about.
It's a real 0 to 100 here, guys, so prepare yourselves.
Yeah, so we just got our usual barnyard language, but then we got to talk about pedophilia for a little bit, so,
okay,
just have that, know.
It'll come eventually. Judging by our cold open there, you probably figured that out. But, yeah, that's good. How about you just read the summary on the back of the book, and maybe people can see where that's coming from.
All right. So The Secret of Moon Lake by Sofia Nova has the following summary. When 14-year-old Sam Lawrence stumbles across a magical medallion, eerie things begin to happen in the city of Moon Lake. Sam realizes that the legends might actually be true when he discovers Aurelia, a mysterious mermaid who has been trapped in the lake for 300 years. As Sam's friendship with the mermaid increases, so does the power of the medallion. Sam slowly begins to understand that the medallion is even more powerful, and he loves it. But could the medallion's revealing power become more dangerous than he thinks?
You know, I didn't notice the weird thing in that summary there when it says Sam realizes that the legends might actually be true when there's no previous legends referenced here, so you're kind of just throwing it. That's just one of those little
summary's not great,
writing mistakes that are still part of Sophia. Should we say Sophia or Gloria now?
I mean, it's obviously Gloria Tesch. The acknowledgement page, the illustration credit, and the author photo all betray that Sofia Nova is Gloria Tesch immediately. So it's not really I think that honestly, I think it was a smart move because her dad is dead now and can't touch any of her work and make it weirder. So it probably was a good idea for her to rebrand with a different name.
I'm in agreement, honestly.
Yeah, although I do think she could have probably done a better job of maybe masking the fact that she's actually Gloria Tesch, but I think that it's honestly just a surface level attempt, and for something like this it would work, because if you see this book on Amazon or on a bookshelf somewhere, you don't look at it and immediately think it's anything related to Maradonia, and no one's gonna...
If for some reason you're knowledgeable of Maradonia, which is an extremely slim amount of people out there.
Yeah, that's true. I don't think that anyone picking this up would have any idea, So unless, like Chris said, unless you're one of the privileged few inducted into the fucking halls of Maradonia fame over here. But anyway, our characters and setting. So our characters are Sam Lawrence. He's our main boy. We've got his friend Ethan, his friend Alex, his sister Leah, his mom and dad, Mr. and Mrs. Fisher, who are Alex's parents, Marcus, Julia, and Mr. Brown. And then, of course, Aurelia, the mermaid. I think those are all the important ones.
Yeah, reasonable enough cast for what you'd expect out of a book like this. Paris, do you think I should do the thing where I say what I think this book is out front?
No. I think we should wait till the end.
Okay. All
right. But so you know how we usually like to start off with characters and setting, but so the setting is the town of Moon Lake, but you don't actually find out where that town is until page 205.
You really have to know?
I think
You enjoy The Simpsons plenty without knowing what state Springfield's in.
Yeah, but The Simpsons is good. Like, I need...
Okay, well,
I need something to be... I need the lines to be colored in for me in this fucking shit.
Paris, before we get into the rest, like, I really, at least up front, I want to say that this is an improvement from Gloria.
Oh, yeah, totally. Yeah, this is definitely
a definite improvement from Gloria. It's better than Maradonia in a lot of ways, I would say.
Yeah,
it's just,
I agree.
Who is this targeted towards? I have to ask, because we're a little unsure of that. And I will say, if you are targeting, like, let's say, a 5th to 7th grader reading age, this might be fine.
I mean, it's got some serious continuity and plot issues, but
sure,
the overall concept and basic structure, yeah, it's like well, actually, why don't you tell people how you... Yeah, fuck it.
Okay, Paris, it's a Goosebumps book.
Yeah,
it's like it's the budgety Goosebumps book.
My description is it's like you go to Building 19 and you're like, oh man, Goosebumps, but they're different colors. Then you get closer to the table and it's like, oh, flesh lumps. This is what I wanted.
Duck warts. Oh.
Yeah, it's...
If you don't know what Building 19 is, by the way, it's like a... what's the best way to describe it, Paris?
A weird discount warehouse that's very popular in New England.
Sure, yeah. It's your outlet store.
It's a weird... But it's, like, really quirky. Like, there was always a pot of burned coffee that you could just have when you walked in
take
the
it with
store. You could also buy Christmas trees there that were sketchy. They would just... It's one of those places, like, if you know what Ocean State Job Lot is, or... that's also a regional thing. God fucking damn it. I've lived in New England for too long.
It's an outlet warehouse with just like random crap everywhere.
Yeah,
like
things
more random than you'd expect.
Yeah, so for example, I remember the year after the Patriots, the football, the American hand egg passing game, football, they had won the Super Bowl, was that right? Yes, they won the Super Bowl.
That's what they win.
Right? And a year later, or I think it was a year later, I remember going into that store and there was just literally tables that were piled with mountains of framed Patriots player pictures. Because, like, they clearly produced way too many of them and thought people would really... So, it's kind of like where retail junk goes to die.
Yeah.
But if you were poor as a child in the 90s, you could get some sick computer games and, like, books from there. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like, that's... It says... You say where they go to die, it's more like the shelter where it might get euthanized later, but you can adopt it if you...
Oh my god, I think that's the funniest thing you've said in a really long time.
Yeah, dark too, so...
Fuck. Okay, well, we don't have to... We can come off this memory lane that goes to Building 19 and just reel it on back.
Yeah, that's some, like, small town... not a small town, it's a Boston thing. It's a New England, like, local thing. Like, this book feels like, because it's in Moon Lake, Maine, apparently. It's basically any small town USA is where this is set.
Yeah, with lakes that connect to the ocean. I just thought it was funny that we didn't find out it was Maine until page 205.
Yeah.
All right, so... Yeah. Overall, it's an improvement, but there's still a lot of weird shit going on. So...
Start at the top. Sam is out. It starts like any normal book would with, like, Sam woke up ready to go for his day, and he ran out the door before he even got a mouthful of breakfast to go fishing with his friend, Ethan.
He loves fishing. Fishing's great. He thinks that catching the big fish will make a girl like him, and will also make him a real man. And I thought that was real. Those two sentiments were real weird. I don't know. Are those things a 14-year-old would think?
Chris? When you're a 14-year-old boy, you really do want to prove yourself to girls. But I don't know if I'd have the conscious thought, this will make me a real man when I'm trying. Like, I would definitely, like, post my cool fish or something. I mean, posting things on the internet wasn't really a thing as much when I was 14. It wasn't a way, but you had to, like, get to a computer and you couldn't just do it with your phone.
Yeah.
You had to wait. Anyway, you might, post it on your MySpace that you got a real big fish and hope that Ashley, messages you about it. But make you a real man is a stretch.
Yeah, it seemed a little weird. But I guess, like you said, for kids, young teens and kids, maybe that makes sense. He goes down to fish with his friend at Moon Lake, and they mention that the other side of Moon Lake is the quote-unquote creepy side, and while they're fishing, a huge storm starts, like out of nowhere. It's just pouring buckets, and the wind picks up, and it's very scary. He falls into the lake, and decides to surrender to the strong current,
Yeah.
And I wrote, that was my clue that the lake had to be connected to the ocean somehow, because, like, a strong river or the ocean, because if it was just, like, I don't know, I feel like a really...
still lake, a still water lake would not have a current.
Yeah, but, I mean, this one, it makes sense because you then find out that it's connected to the ocean or whatever, but...
Yeah.
Anyway, surrendering to a strong current sure seems like a fast track to death rather than surviving, but alright.
I don't know, do either of us have lifeguard training? Maybe that is how you let things happen. I don't know.
Well, because she was like, oh, he surrendered to the strong current and it took him to shore, and I was like, I don't know.
You can at least, like, swim with it, right? Like, if you want to get to shore faster.
Yeah, he just floated. And again, this is during a serious storm, so it's not like it was a casual thing. You know?
Also, his friend Ethan just fucks off, and, like, I think he makes a point to check if Sam got home with his mom or something, but it's not like he sticks around or, like, raises an alarm when Sam isn't there. He just, like, asks his mom, like, hey, did Sam come back yet? And she's like, nah, and, like, Ethan goes home.
Somehow his friend disappears while there's a storm on the lake, and Ethan just yells a couple times and then leaves. And it's like, what? Wouldn't you call someone because your friend is probably drowning?
He went to, Sam's mom, and he was like, hey, did Sam get back? And his mom's
that
like,
was it.
No.
He didn't tell him, hey, your son's probably drowning in a lake.
Yeah, all right, well, shit.
Yeah, that was odd. I know the text specifically says that Sam thinks to himself, or says out loud, oh no, Ethan probably didn't see me fall in the lake. But one, that's not a thing you would say out loud while you're trying to survive.
In this book where, like, things that might be better as a thought are just said out loud instead.
Yeah, and, like, secondly, I don't think that your friend could have missed you falling in the lake, and even if he did, wouldn't he instinctively think, oh no, maybe he fell into the lake because there's a huge storm and we were both just standing on the edge of the lake?
Maybe he's like, oh, I know Sam's a bitch. He probably ran away immediately.
But they were standing right next to each other. I don't understand how this is possible.
He has really bad eyesight like me. Even I would still notice someone, falling in the lake probably if I was standing right next to them.
Yeah. So that's the thing. And then what happened? So he surrenders to the current and survives.
He gets onto the creepy side of the lake and he finds a little hut or like a lean-to thing.
Yep.
With a boat in it that's covered by moss and grass that looks untouched for a while. And he decides to investigate the area a little bit more, and he finds this mysterious medallion, which has a lot of fun colors in it, and it looks like, it's moving in the middle. I think it's supposed to have, like, a mirror in the middle?
No, it's supposed to have it has a purple, green, and blue, like, iridescent stones, and there's, like, a ripple effect when you look at it, like water, I guess. Yeah. So he finds this magical medallion. And he's like, oh man, this is so cool, of course, and he keeps it. And he hears some people coming, and he's like, uh-oh, who are they? Because he's on the creepy side of the lake. And it turns out it's just the sheriff?
The sheriff.
Chief? Yeah. I forget, because his dad's also a cop, but I forget what rank he is. Anyway, the guy who's a cop,
or something.
Yeah, the guy who's a cop but not his dad shows up. So cop not a dad shows up, and he brings along with him this quote-unquote weird scientist guy they're like, oh, we're investigating the weird sounds on the lake. And Sam's like, oh yeah, I think he heard them during the storm, right? Or maybe I'm misremembering that. But then they start talking about how there's this horrible screeching sound that's been coming from the lake, and they're trying to figure out what it is. So this weird scientist is like some kind of specialist here to help investigate the sound so they can stop it because it's really freaking people out. He then, goes home. They drop him off home. He tells them, about the storm or whatever. And as he gets home, it's definitely nighttime.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
the evening.
Determined that it's evening. And Chris has a lovely note about this. So as Sam arrives home, he discovers that a family is moving in next door.
It seems like they just pull in at the same time that Sam is dropped off or like shortly after he gets home, because there's a whole scene with like his sister Leah being introduced, and she's kind of like, not like, she's a little sarcastic towards him, but she's generally fine towards Sam. They have a, fine sibling relationship that might be a little bit testy at moments, but in a fairly reasonable sibling-ish way.
Yeah.
She seems to care for him. Yada, yada, that's a little bit important later. Anyway, after that whole thing, a family is moving in next door in the evening time, and then when Sam and Leah go to look and see who steps out, there's a mom, and there's a young boy around Sam's age, and there's an older boy who's probably the brother, and then there's the weird scientist guy also getting out of the moving van, who was the guy at the lake. So this leads me to think...
The timeline is,
At some point, the dad was at the lake hunting. They were headed into the town. Scientist dad is like, hold up, gotta check in with the lake and the police immediately as soon as we enter the border of the town.
He tucks and rolls out of the moving van.
or like he parks the van next to the lake and like makes his family wait while he just goes and does like a cursory sweep of the woods around this lake for God knows how long. And then after that, they come back and move in after that?
Yeah, and the fun part about this is, as they're moving things in, Sam is across the street in his house. It's evening, so it's darker out. It's not pitch black, I don't think, at this point. Or maybe it is...
Also, it's raining because there's a
raining.
storm.
Right, it's raining. And he can see from across the street that they are moving in large watercolors and oil paintings of like dragons and stuff in these fancy frames, and I'm like, what are you fucking doing moving paintings like that without having them covered and protected
in the rain?
In the rain at night,
pouring rain.
Yeah.
like they're just like one big LARPing family. Like they all take part in like constant D&D adventures, so they have giant paintings for atmosphere.
Well, I mean, that's fine if they have those paintings. It just didn't make sense that he could see them at that moment in time and also recognize whether they are oil or watercolor. Is Sam a 14-year-old art enthusiast? Like,
yeah, man.
So that was like, so right at the beginning, you're like, okay, things are still a little fucking weird in this book. And then does he go over to meet them right away? Like,
yeah, he basically just strolls up because he notices the kid that's his age and he's like, there's a person I can make a friend with, which, like, I guess reasonable.
Yeah.
I would have been like scared out of my ass to do that, but that's me as a socially awkward person.
Yeah, I think a lot of kids in kind of like small town America would be they would feel totally fine doing that. But yeah, he walks in and like immediately, yeah, Chris, this is your note, so I won't steal your thunder if you want to talk about the lab.
Okay, so he introduces himself to Alex, who is the younger boy there, who like seems a little quirky and like very stuffy almost. He talks about how proper Alex speaks all the time, and it's like kind of clear that he's not from the U.S. in some way.
Yep.
And then he meets the mom, who seems like he describes as a hippie immediately because she's got like some necklaces on and like hoop earrings, which I guess makes her a hippie or something. And,
we'll talk. Yeah, I'll talk about that now.
And then, like, Alex invites them into the house. I forget why Alex, like, is like, yeah, come on in. Or, like, he offers to help move stuff in. Except that when he's moving the stuff in, the dad is weird again. Obviously because he just saw this kid at the lake, maybe. But also, Sam peers into this one room in the house, which he describes as being filled with weird monitors and equipment that makes it look like a lab. And I'm like, wait a minute. They just pulled up in the car, in the van, and he's already got the lab set up in there? Like, when 15 minutes have passed and he has only taken the paintings out of the van, as far as I know.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible that maybe maybe some of that was set up before, but it definitely seems like the text definitely makes it feel like they just got there, like you said, and just started moving in. So
this is just indicative of like some of the quality things here that are still a little bit fuzzy with Gloria here, where it should be much clearer as to when they moved in, or you could even just add a line where the mom or Leah's like, yeah, I saw them here yesterday too.
Yeah, and then, as we start learning more about the family, the Fishers, who, Alex Fisher and his parents and his brother Marcus, honestly, probably my favorite line in the book, when Sam is meeting Marcus, the older brother, who's I think maybe 18 or something, he says, I am a popular DJ in Romania. Which is...
Would you like to listen to my music track? Which I think he also says.
Good fucking lord.
Which is just a pretty... I mean, come on, Paris, there was some dude that used this line on Gloria before, right?
Oh, absolutely.
That's 100% a line that got used.
I am a popular DJ in Romania. The most amazing sentence in this book so far. Just so good. So somehow this teenager is a... I don't know, popular DJ in Romania, which also seems kind of weird, but I don't know.
Possible.
Maybe.
There's plenty of, Medean was a guy that got popular when he was, 17.
No, I know it's possible. It's just, again, it's like, really? And then they I think he asks Alex, after he says, oh, I'm popular DJ in Romania, he's like, oh, so, is that where you're from? And they're like, yeah, we're half Romanian, half Scandinavian. Which is just not a way you would self-describe. Scandinavia is a group of countries. You would say you were from a certain country. You would say you were from Denmark, Norway, or Sweden. You wouldn't just say Scandinavian. Unless you were intentionally trying to be vague. Which I don't understand why you would. So that's weird.
There's a lot of things in here that's like, yeah, we're from Scandinavia in general. When I know definitely some people from Norway that are like, fuck the Finnish, or
well, Finns aren't technically Scandinavian.
That's what I mean. It's like,
yeah. But I know a lot of people include Finland and Iceland in Scandinavia, but technically, it's just the three main Scandi countries there.
I mean, that's the other thing is I believe, it's very unspecific because some Scandinavian stuff comes into play later, and it's very unspecific about whether it's from Norway or Sweden.
Oh, don't you worry. I've cooked up quite a bit to talk about my favorite part of the world.
Paris came prepared to this episode, you guys. She came extremely prepared.
Yeah, I mean, we already know that, I love my Norway, so, had to get in there. But anyway...
Romani Scandinavian families moving in next door. Sam makes a point to introduce himself to Alex, and he's like, "Oh, we're gonna, I'll see you in school tomorrow, probably." And then we essentially cut to the next day in school, where Sam rolls up and his friend Ethan. Ethan's like, "Oh, what happened? Where'd you go, man?" And I can't believe Sam was like, "What the fuck, dude? I was dying."
Yeah, like you fucking abandoned me to drown.
Yeah,
like where was that?
Instead, we get this scene that sort of sets up that there's this group of girls at the school. One of them, Jessica, is a girl that Sam likes, but Ethan hates because Jessica's kind of shitty to him. But Ethan likes Jessica's friend, Brianna, I believe?
Yeah, I think so. Whatever.
It's not that, the only thing that happens in terms of that plot point is Ethan throws a chocolate bar at her head.
It gets stuck in her hair.
That's how he expresses his interest.
I don't know if that's a thing 14-year-olds would do. It's been a long time.
That's a 7-year-old way to express interest, I think.
Yeah, if you're 14, 14-year-olds are already fucking each other. I don't think
you probably know not to throw a chocolate bar at her head.
Like a half-eaten wet chocolate bar.
Yeah, not just fresh and new like he was giving her a new one. He had been eating it, and he decides, fuck this. I know I have a better idea.
So again, this is another entry in the list of things that are just kind of off about this book.
Did someone throw a chocolate bar at Gloria's head?
Maybe.
Probably not. I'll just keep ascribing things to she has the capacity to make shit up like this.
Oh, of course.
Saying it has to have happened to her.
Yeah, and then there's a news report. It cuts briefly to a news report where a reporter is talking about the horrible screeching sounds, and he refers to, or he or she, I can't remember if it was I don't know, it genders the reporter, I can't remember what it is right now. Anyway, the reporter, they say that the sounds are an eerie epidemic, and I was like, I don't think a reporter would refer to sounds as a epidemic? I don't know. It just seems weird.
Yeah, that's not the right word for that. Also, while we're on the subject of weird things to call screeches, it's like, oh yeah, this is a kind of a thing in this town where people have claimed to have heard this before. Back in the day, people used to call it the yearning with like a capital Y in there.
Yeah,
like they named it like some shitty alt-rock band or something.
Oh yeah, the yearning now on tour with Muse. Yeah.
Why would... I'm speaking as someone that has a project called Urine, by the way, so I'm not free of this. Anyway, it seems like why would people in the town give it that name? Wouldn't they just call it the Screeches?
Well, and
those weird fucking animal sounds,
right? And that's the other part of this is that, several people in the book say, oh, it's probably just an animal, and then the third part is that sometimes the book speaks of the sounds as though no one has any idea what they are and has never heard them before. But then, as Chris just mentioned, it's like, oh yeah, this has happened before. So I don't, which one is it? Choose one.
I think it's like the younger people in town haven't heard this before.
Yeah, but it certainly doesn't make that clear.
Yeah, it does not. Anyway, it also seems to radiate throughout the whole town. I guess, I know it's a small town, and, sounds can carry, especially loud screeches like that, but there's a separate school incident later. I don't know if I should get to this now, because...
we also kind of forgot to talk about him meeting Aurelia for the first time.
Did that already happen? I thought that happens the day, after he goes to school for the first time with this whole Jessica Ethan thing.
Maybe you're
right. Then he goes back to the lake.
Yeah, because he feels the medallion pulling him back to the lake.
Yeah. So
he goes back, and that's where he fucking meets this mermaid, right?
Yeah.
So there's a mermaid. Sup? Her name's Aurelia, and this is one of my. So I have a list here of continuity issues / weird glaring problems, and this is a big one. So he meets Aurelia, and of course she's this gorgeous stereotypical mermaid. She's got slightly bluish green skin, long silvery hair, long blue fingernails. She's so beautiful. Oh my god, she's 16 and blah blah blah.
The most beautiful thing Sam has ever seen,
etc. ever. So I get it. A 14-year-old boy meeting a mermaid. Yeah, he's gonna be a little starstruck.
She's also wearing barnacle bra too, I think, which of course. Yeah.
I don't know if they describe that, but probably. I mean,
there's definitely a part where it mentions and she's wearing a bra made of I think it might have even been seashells or something.
You're right. It was like a seaweed top or something. Yeah. You're correct.
So I mean, there's also a scene later where Sam sees her cleavage and passes the fuck out entirely. That's a chapter ender, right?
All right, Chris, as a former 14-year-old boy yourself, does that seem plausible? It seems plausible to me.
Passing out is a little strong. More have a lot of trouble pulling my eyes away from and seeming like a creep is more reasonable.
Okay, all right, fair.
But passing out is that's an anime thing, man. Which
yeah.
that rears its head in a moment too. So
anyway, yeah, he feels pulled towards the lake. P.S. There's also a scene where it suggests that when Sam wears the medallion or touches it, it gives him enhanced strength, aggression, drive, so it affects him.
He's playing a soccer game with Alex and Ethan and these two other random boys that they have a big enough yard to play soccer in, and he puts the medallion on when he feels tired, and then he's super pumped up power thirst style.
Yeah.
He's yeah, I'm gonna fucking score the goals. And then he beats the soccer ball into the face of Alex, I'm pretty sure.
Yes, yeah, and then it ricochets and breaks the window on the house of old Mr. Brown. But before we get too far, I realized we strayed from my point. When he meets Aurelia, she tells him she's 300 years old. This is going to we're gonna check that math in a few minutes. So she's 300 years old. Remember, the mermaid, 300. So they break the window of Mr. Brown, and they all run away. and decide no one's going to take responsibility for it, even though it's obviously Sam's fault. Mr. Brown shows up at Sam's house, and is like, hey, I know, basically, he's in a very gentle way, is like, yeah, I know it was you, whatever. Eventually gets it out of him, and Sam agrees to, work off his debt to fix the window.
This is a good point to bring up.
Yes, yes, it is.
Brown here.
Oh, boy.
He does not just show up and say, hey, like a normal person, hey, I know you broke my window. He is of Native American descent, and boy, does Gloria have to let you know through the way he speaks.
Yeah, this shit sucks. This is the point in the book where I was like, this is terrible. This is definitely one of the things that would need to be changed for the book to be readable. Yeah, there's this whole, Chris, this is technically your note, but I had the same thought, noble savage shit where, he has a feathered staff. He calls Sam young warrior. He literally has a hawk that he can communicate with. He can see into time. It's just so awful.
Showing up with the feathered staff at the door is God. Way beyond the pale, I think. Who's coming out? What old? Maybe if you're it's his walking stick, but I don't think it's described as such. And it would still just be a regular old walking stick you would get from the hospital or something, probably not my ancient Native American artifact or I don't know.
Yeah, and so that sucks. So every time Mr. Brown is in a scene, he is the noble, savage, sage grandpa,
wizened old Native American type who's got the communication with the spirits and stories to tell you.
Yeah, and so he's like, I have to tell you this because I'm going to die soon. And that's what he says to Sam. And my question is, why would Mr. Brown want to tell a shitty 14-year-old this important arcane knowledge? And
why? Because he broke the window? Because you had the courage to break my window?
No, the only explanation I have is that Mr. Brown clearly fucking knows everything, as is demonstrated in the text numerous times, that he can, kind of read minds, or at least is really, really good at picking up on social cues and lying. And so my only guess is that he knows Sam has the medallion and has met the mermaids somehow. And that's why he tells him this. But he's like, oh, I have to tell someone, and you're very special, so I have to tell you. And he tells him the story of the secret of Moon Lake. Here's the eponymous secret. He tells him that 1,000 years ago, a Viking king named Gerald came and settled Moon Lake. And when Gerald was about to come over here from Norway, he specifically says he's Norwegian, he says that Gerald wanted a wife to help him rule, and so he rounded up all the beautiful women in Norway and chose the most beautiful one. But her name was Aurelia, and she was already in love with Christian, who is a soldier in Gerald's army. But of course, Gerald doesn't care. So he takes Aurelia with him. And for some reason, Christian also comes along on this journey, which seems like
he's a general in the army.
No, he was a soldier.
Yeah, but, he got selected, I guess.
But, you could probably swap him out,
Yeah, the king has the authority to be like, you stay back.
Yeah,
I'm going to take your girlfriend over to America.
Yeah, maybe don't take your girlfriend's boyfriend, with you. So... Maybe
he's the type that likes that. Yeah.
No, clearly not. So they get to North America, and So there's a wise woman, or for lack of a witch, however you want to say, on the ship, and Aurelia talks to her about getting some help, and the witch says, "Yeah, I got you, girl. Don't worry. I'm gonna give you this amulet. You wear it. You do this thing, and within so many days, you and Christian will be able to be together. You'll be free of the king." So, turns out she got tricked and gets turned into a mermaid because the witch was under the employ of Gerald, and when obviously when she was like, "Hey, I want to get out of this marriage," the witch told Gerald, and Gerald was like, "All right, we're gonna fucking ruin her life then." So they turn her into a mermaid, and she ends up being trapped in Moon Lake as a mermaid. So there are some things. Okay, so to be clearly, King Gerald is based on either Eric Thorvaldsson, who is Eric the Red, or his son, Leif Erikson. I think that's pretty clear. Around 1,000 years ago is the right timeline for, Viking settlement, or not settlement, but Viking brief discovery of North America. There's really only one settlement that was ever proven to truly be, from Vikings, and that's up in not Nova Scotia. Newfoundland. Sorry, Newfoundland. Jesus Christ, why couldn't I remember that? There's a settlement in Newfoundland. That's the only one that's been archaeologically and scientifically kind of proven, But I still think it's okay in sort of a taking something historical and saying, hey, because there are so the one in Newfoundland, they're pretty sure that's like one of the places talked about in some of the sagas, and there are two other ones that have never been confirmed, and one of them is called Markland, and that of course was described as being much more southern than this area of Newfoundland. So like it could be Maine.
Sure.
Theoretically. Yeah. Sure, right? Like
totally plausible.
Yeah,
reasonable.
totally fine. Like obviously this is not real, but I think if you're writing a historical fiction, that's totally acceptable. But unfortunately it does kind of dip into the like, oh, they wore horned helmets and they had big double-sided axes and like, they didn't have horned helmets.
Cartoon
they didn't have
Viking description.
Yeah, which is not real. I mean, the whole horned helmets thing is like a pretty common like myth that people peddle about Vikings, but
Viking aesthetic. Are you ready for Viking punk in 10 years, Paris? And we all like that's like the look.
But so like there have been no helmets discovered of that era with horns on them. There are like ceremonial helmets with some horned parts, and there are certainly horned helmets from other civilizations that Vikings traded with, but like so anyway, I'm not going to talk about hats for much longer. It's a dumb cartoonish depiction that isn't accurate. Moving on.
Is that fine? Well, before we move on, is that fine for a book that might be for kids? Probably not, because we want to educate the kids on some more realistic shit than that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I think that it's okay to have this like historical fiction, but I just think that there should have been more context, and also, don't keep perpetuating these like dumb things that are obviously
especially
real.
to kids, right?
Yeah, right, exactly. And so anyway, that's all fine. 1,000 years ago. Okay, let's do some math. All right, TV listeners, is 300 the same as 1,000? Because
so 300 has 2 zeros in the number 3, but 1,000 has 3 zeros.
Yeah.
So mostly the same.
So there's this fucking obvious, huge, glaring error, right? Aurelia says multiple times throughout the book that she is 300 years old, yet obviously this whole fantasy Viking settlement thing happened about 1,000 years ago. So I don't really know how this was edited and no one noticed this.
Paris, you're going to believe what the pedophile mermaid says her age is?
I don't know. Like, does it matter? 300, 1,000?
No,
like,
Paris,
I
she's
mean,
like one of the dudes on To Catch a Predator that's like, I'm 30 when he's 50.
Oh my god, you're right!
Order of magnitude wider.
Oh my god, you're right. She does fit the description.
Dude, that's exactly what this is. I'm only 300. It's not that bad.
Dude, Chris and I both had the same thought about how this mermaid is a pedophile.
Because we might as well get to the next scene when Alex returns to when Sam returns to the lake.
Yes. So he returns to the lake. She kisses him.
They go underwater.
She kisses him to give him the ability to see and breathe underwater. Somehow you can get that just through a quick spit swap.
First she just pulls him underwater and he's like kind of like, hey, I need to breathe. And then like she kisses him a couple times while he has his like mouth closed, which I guess that's how you do it underwater unless you want a mouthful of lake water. But then after that he realizes that he can breathe. I forget exactly what causes him to like take a gulp finally, but apparently, if you make out with a mermaid, you can breathe underwater for maybe it's not indefinite, right?
No, because she then has to do it again when he surfaces and breathes air. When they go back, she has to do it one more time. So it seems like it only works until you breathe air again.
Yeah, and so she takes him under the lake, and there's like a cave system. I was confused as to where this cave would be underwater, because like the cave they swim up into, there's a small hole they swim through, which is why it was so hidden. Fine, okay, but then they swim up above the water level where they're surrounded by land. Were there any hills outside the lake that would clue a geologist in?
I mean, there's plenty of underground structures that you can't detect visually above ground. I mean, I think, but I don't understand. You know, I'm not a fucking spelunkologist or whatever. I don't know anything about.
I'm no
caves.
lakeomancer either. So
yeah, I don't know anything about caves. So I guess anyone out there who's a geologist, I guess, let us know.
Could you miss a cave underwater that's above water level, or would there be some kind of like pocket in? It seems like they swim down though. Apparently.
Well, yeah. Well, Chris, it's not. But it doesn't say that it's above water level. It's just a cave underground that has access to air. So it could, of course, be lower than ground level.
Yeah, that's what I'm confused about.
Yeah,
I didn't know if you could have a pocket of air where there's a lake above you.
Well, I think that there can be if the cave is off to the side and you can access air through there's shafts that go up to the earth. I mean, that happens. That seems pretty normal to me.
Wouldn't the lake water eventually pump in there, though?
No, because oh my god. No, Chris, it's fine. Let it go. It's
right,
fine.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with
I'm
this.
just trying to learn about lakes and caves. I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. So anyway, they get in there, and when they surface in this underwater cave, you know, there's a fucking Viking ship in there.
Yeah, that's the other thing, Paris. It's like an enormous cave. It's not like a small alcove. It's like it's got a ship in there.
Well, yeah, but my question is actually, we both had the same question, which was, how the fuck did you get a whole Viking longship in there?
Maybe like the lake was different before, and like it originally was a big enough hole to get in there, but that makes me feel like there would be still water in there then.
I don't know, dude. Because they have to swim through a very narrow. Well,
did Aurelia like ship in a bottle it like piece by piece, like reassemble the ship?
I mean, she had 1,000 years, man. Like you got to be bored, you know. So maybe because it describes how they have to go through a very narrow tunnel that they can only fit in one at a time, and that. Sam has to use his hands to grab the rocks on the sides to propel him forward. So a ship ain't getting in there, you know? And there's no other entrance or exit. It's clear about that. So how did that ship get in there?
Yeah, it must have been just
I think
plank
you're right.
Plank.
Yeah, I think she was just super bored for 1,000 years.
She had nowhere else to go. I don't get why she's trapped in the lake. Was that part of the magic medallion thing where she can't go to the ocean or whatever?
That's a great question. I don't know. As far as I know, the medallion only trapped her as a mermaid, like turned her into finfolk. That's the only thing I know.
Yeah, I don't remember a part where it's like, and then you also can't go to the ocean or any other body of water.
Yeah, that's a real big hole in that story. Yep. And then, so, you know, moving on, continuing our journey here, she basically seduces. Excited. Yeah, she seduces Sam and is like, oh my god, Sam, you're so special, like a fucking predator, because she is.
Yes.
And she's like, oh my god, like you're the most specialist boy ever, and you're gonna help. I need your help, Sam. Like, you know, she does all her fucking bats her eyelashes and hair flips and all that shit.
Leans
and she
forward
kisses,
so he can see into the seaweed bra.
Yeah, she kisses him again, and anyway. They swim back out, and he comes up to the surface of the lake, and there's a line saying that he puts his clothes back on, and I was like, hold up, this dude was naked the whole time? They didn't talk about that.
Maybe he just went down to his underwear?
But there was no line about him taking his clothes off. But then there's a line about him putting his clothes back on, and I was like, we didn't know his clothes were off, but okay.
Yeah. I mean, that little things like that add up, Gloria, I gotta say.
Yeah, and you know, she's like, hey, I know I'm 300, but you know, I need you to help me. I need you to trust me. I mean, she's only known him for minutes, you know, at this point.
No, this is a second time back, so it's like a day.
Well, yeah, but they've only spent
in total
together.
It's been a very short amount.
Right. And so he goes back. She's like, but you can't tell, and no one can know I'm here. She's super, super clear with that. She's like, you can't tell anyone. And anytime she suspects that he might have told someone, she freaks out. And she's like, no, you can't fucking tell anyone, blah, blah, blah. And then, let's see, what happens after this?
He goes back to hang out with Alex, and they're just, like, having a normal time, but he's just slowly getting more and more, into this medallion.
Right, yep.
And then I think the next thing that happens is the lake party.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, so he is getting more and more into the medallion. The medallion keeps kind of affecting his behavior when he touches it or wears it.
Oh, wait, there's the part where he sees Alex's dad dragging a weird thing into the house. That's just Alex's dad is supposed to be super sinister at this point.
Yeah, he sees, or suspicious at the very least. Yeah. So he sees Alex's dad in the middle of yet another storm, dragging this, what he thinks is a big cage into the house. And that's like it. We just get this little, rear window shot of that. The school thing happens.
The school thing. That's what that's before the party. Okay.
Yeah.
So Sam goes to school again the next day because you go to school many times, and he plans to ask Jessica out once and for all because the medallions got him with the medallion juice, and he's super pumped up on his power thirst shit. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna fucking ask Jessica out. No one's gonna stop me this time. I'm just gonna have the courage to do it. I think Alex eggs him on a bit, and Ethan's like, no, don't, because he hates Jessica or something.
Yeah, I forget that. Yeah, there's some discrepancy there. Yeah.
But, so Sam walks up to Jessica in the middle of he sees Jessica at a school assembly that's happening. I think, what's the assembly discussing? Is it discussing the lake sounds? Am I wrong? No, it's not, right? It was for something else.
I honestly don't remember. It was just one of those details that I was like, this isn't important.
They're having a school assembly. Jessica's sitting a few rows in front of Sam, and he interacts with her briefly, and her friends are kind of giggling at him. And then at the end of the assembly, Sam's like, I know how I will ask a girl out. I will march up onto the platform in the auditorium, and I will grab the mic, and I will ask her out over the PA system in front of the whole school, which is just kind of a shitty way to ask someone out no matter how you slice it. Even if you think it's a romantic gesture, it's really putting someone on the spot there, which is super unfair in a situation like that.
Yeah. So her friends, Jessica's friends, basically force her to say no and embarrass him. And then everyone is mad at him and they send him home?
But that's after the screeching starts up again, which they can hear inside the school in the auditorium.
Yes, and somehow they're like, it was Sam. It's Sam's fault that they're screeching.
I think it's supposed to be coming through the medallion. Oh, by the way, another detail. When Sam wears the medallion, he can understand Aurelia, but it's...
sorry, that's in my list of inconsistencies. I'll get to that in a second.
Yeah, so it's Aurelia who's screeching all the time, and when Sam gets the medallion, he can understand her voice. Anyway, somehow the screeching is coming into the school. I'm guessing through the medallion is the only reasonable explanation for this, even though it's never brought... It's just happening, and it's super loud at all times. And it stops when, Sam raises his hand?
I forget.
He literally just, raises his hand, and it stops. And then everyone immediately thinks that he was in control of it, which is a immediately super paranormal conclusion to jump to.
Yeah, and the whole auditorium and all the teachers and stuff, and then he gets sent home for it. It just doesn't make any sense. Go
home. Stop making screech sounds in the auditorium. It's very inappropriate, young man.
Yeah, and if they really thought that, wouldn't they be like, all right, we're going to take you to the police because we think that, the police have been trying to figure out where the screeching is coming from, and now we've figured it out, so... I don't know.
Yeah, they just said, just go home. Sleep it off. After that embarrassing display and you're screeching, we need to send you home. You can't be around the other kids.
Yeah, it's fucking weird. That happens, and then is at the party.
Wait,
what am I forgetting?
Before the party, imagine being that parent that gets the phone call that your child is being sent home. First of all, because they made a fool of themselves in front of the whole school by asking a person out on the auditorium mic. But secondarily, because they were in control of a screeching sound that has been plaguing the entire town for the past week.
Yeah, that'd be an interesting phone call for sure.
I have to pick Sam up. Why?
Yeah. Oh no, I remember what happens next. Then he's so embarrassed, so he goes to see Aurelia, and he goes to see her again, and she's like, "It was me. You're the only one." That's when she's like, "You're the only one who can understand me. You know, the screeching is just me trying to talk, but I'm cursed so that no one can understand it, and people are afraid of it unless you have the medallion."
But Sam heard it as screeching too.
Yeah, I know. Hang on. And so, it's established again. So it's very clear that only by wearing the medallion can a human hear and understand Aurelia as speaking normally, rather than this ear-piercing, painful screeching. So, later in the book, why can he understand her without the medallion when he gives the medallion away to someone, which we'll talk about in a moment? And why can everyone understand her without the medallion all of a sudden at the end of the book in the final scene?
Once again, no. Is this supposed to be like she's lying?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so. It's not presented as like that's why she.
Because that's why Christian or whatever, her original love, that's why they couldn't be reunited, because she was turned into a mermaid, and when she tried to call to him, it was just the horrible screeching that scared him away. He could no longer understand her speech. It was part of the curse. So
okay, yeah,
she's not lying about it.
All right, then yeah, that just doesn't make sense at all.
Exactly, yeah, it's one of the many like inconsistencies that really should have been sorted out before this was published. So that happens, and Aurelia's like trying to make him feel better after, you know, the embarrassing thing or whatever. And she's like, "Well, I need your help." And she's like, "You'll help me, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And he's, I don't know, he's like complaining. And she's like, "Well, I know it will make you feel better." I think the big bass, the fish that he wanted to catch at the beginning of the book.
Oh yeah.
Like jumps out of the lake and like jumps up into the air, and he's like, "Oh, that's the fish I want to catch." And she's like, "Oh, it's a prehistoric fish. Let me just get it for you." And so she like whispers some shit, and it just swims up and jumps out of the lake and lies there and waits for him to collect it. And I was like, wow, way to ruin any sense of accomplishment this kid could have had by forcing the fish to surrender with magic. And then he's like, "Oh man, this is so cool, I'm gonna take this fish to the party."
Check out the big fish, y'all.
Party fish. The party fish
Sam
sequence
in the house and he got the big fish.
Oh my god, the party fish sequence is so good. So sorry, we keep talking about this party. So there's a party at one of the kids' houses that's like on the edge of the lake. And the girls are going, you know, his sister Leah and her friend Julia, and I forget some other people.
Marcus,
and
big Romanian DJ.
Big Romanian DJ is DJing. Yes, he's DJing. And so they, you know, Sam's like meets up with Ethan and Alex, and he has the fish, and they're like, "Oh my god, it's Big Bass!" And they're like walking to the party, and he's just got this big ass fish over his shoulder, like yeah. And then he like pisses someone off.
Hey,
and
the weirdo that screeched at school earlier came here with a fish.
Well, and then he pisses somebody off, and I don't even remember how, but he gets in.
It's some jock dude that he hits with the fish accidentally, I think.
He gets knocked out, the fish falls to the floor, and as he's getting into this fight, you know, he has the medallion with him, so he's like, you know, really getting into it with these kids, and then all of a sudden there's this prolonged screeching and all the windows break simultaneously in this house, so everyone freaks out and runs away. And you know, this is a scary situation if you're a teenager, and I think if you're anyone, this is a scary situation where all of a sudden there's this ear-piercing screech and all the windows in a house break at the same time. Everyone is like, fuck, you know, running out. And okay. But you know what? Before you run out of a building, don't forget to collect your prize fish.
Yeah.
Sam, remember, oh man, I gotta take Big Bass, and scoops up Big Bass and runs out with him.
You gotta have it.
I gotta have it.
Okay, but reasonably, Paris, imagine that you were just at school and some kid had some like ear-piercing shriek that boomed throughout the whole auditorium and was able to shut it off, and you're just living with that knowledge. Then he shows up at the party, gets real weird with one of your friends who, like, he bumps into with this big fish that he brought for some reason, and then when he's threatened, the shrieking happens again, and it bursts all the windows in the house. I would immediately assume, oh, this is a telekinetic child that I must run away from.
Yeah, like, at that point, I would maybe start connecting the paranormal dots, yeah. So that happens, and Leah is with her friend Julia, and Julia, well, the book says that not that she's been drinking. You've drinking!
And you've drinking, Julia.
Yes, you've drinking. There's some weird typos in here. Not many, to be fair. Not nearly as bad as Maradonia, but a couple. So Leah is with her friend Julia, and they drove here together. Julia drove them. You know, she's 16, just got her license. And Julia's drunk. And, you know, being peer pressured by cute boys, basically, is what we're told. And Leah's like, you know, I don't want to stay, because Julia's like, come on, I want to stay, because she's going to hook up with this guy or whatever. And Leah's like, no, I want to go home. And so they get in the car, and Julia drives drunk. And, like, she gets, a block down the street and crashes, and they get into a horrific accident.
Like, immediately.
Oh, yeah, like...
This is a drunk driving PSA from an after-school show if I ever saw one. Like, as soon as you step on the gas, someone's T-boning you or something.
Yeah, so, like, Julia is mostly fine and is able to crawl out of the car, but Leah is trapped inside the car and can't feel her legs. And at that moment, I knew that fish bitch was trying to swap bodies with Leah.
Yeah.
I knew it.
I knew exactly, it. Yeah.
Yep, I knew it. I was like, yep, that was it all along, because there's a couple of points where anytime Sam mentions his sister, Aurelia perks up and she's like, oh, you have a sister? Is she pretty? And, you know, and then she gets into an accident where she can't feel her legs, so, like, you know, duh. Chris, you made a note about the newspaper if you wanna.
Their dad, Leah gets taken to the hospital, obviously. Their parents are super worried, so Sam and Leah's dad, he's reading the newspaper in the morning. Sam comes downstairs dejected because his sister's in the hospital. And the newspaper is like, local teen gets in terrible car accident as like the headline. I'm trying to find actually the note here.
Well, I mean, I'm kind of fine with that. If it's a really small lake community in Maine, like, I can see that. That seems pretty reasonable to me. Yeah, so I don't know. I'm kind of fine with that. But anyway, Sam's obviously really distraught because he really loves his sister. And they go visit her in the hospital, and she's actually doing okay. They're like, yeah, she's pretty dinged up, but no serious injuries. You know, we got to keep her for a few days, but she'll be okay. And I was like, oh, you know, but then there's mention that she can see Aurelia outside the window. You know, and Sam...
Yeah, I don't understand how that works, by the way.
Yeah,
There's no reason for that to work, because you're saying that the mermaid is, like, levitating or, like, astrally projecting outside the window.
Yeah, astrally projecting is what it suggests, because it says her spirit was there.
Yeah, and Leah is... Sam's about to give Leah the medallion because Aurelia basically tells Sam, "Hey, give your sister the medallion."
Well, this is after this. He's like, "Oh, she's gonna be better, whatever." You know, the text says that she sees this figure outside, but she's on a bunch of painkillers. So they're like, "Yeah, whatever. She's just seeing stuff." But Sam knows. He's like, "Oh, you know, she sees Aurelia. That's weird." And then, you know, everything's gonna be cool. And then, like, the next day or later that night, after they leave, later that night, she just takes a turn for the worst. Like, she has internal injuries. She's like literally dying and in the ICU all of a sudden. And you kind of understand that it's probably because of Aurelia, because it's kind of how they leave it. Like,
yeah, but how?
You know, but how?
But how?
Great question. But anyway, you know, the parents are distraught. Sam's distraught, so he goes to Aurelia and he's like, please help me. Like, what can you do? And she's like, oh, I can help you. Just give her the medallion. It'll totally fix her up. And he's like, oh my God, you're my best friend. You know, and of course he goes and gives Leah the medallion. It immediately cures her. But as days go by, Leah starts acting very strangely. And as I said, I was suspicious of this from the get. And you learn that it's like, once every 100 years, on the night of the full moon, if Aurelia can convince a human woman to put on the medallion and wear it for, I don't know, like
5 days, I believe.
Come down, I forget what it is, but come down to the lake on the night of the full moon, then she can take over her body, and that human woman then, they basically swap places. The human woman then becomes trapped as a mermaid in the lake.
I think they literally swap bodies. It's not like Aurelia like changes her body. And
right.
It's like literally she would take over Leah, and I guess Leah's mind would be... No, it's not even that Leah's mind would be swapped because Aurelia has a part where she's like, oh, yeah, Leah would be able to, like, kind of, it's like the Get Out kind of thing, where it's like the sunken place, essentially. So it's...
Spoilers for Get Out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think the mermaid body would just, I don't know, flop dead like a fish and float to the top of the water?
Yeah, I guess I'm not really... Yeah, because it would make more sense if they swapped consciousnesses or just literally swapped places. But that's not quite what happens, so that's also weird. Anyway, so Sam figures it out, confronts Aurelia about it, and then...
Why didn't he figure it out? Because fucking Mr. Brown told him about the medallion story, right?
Oh, yeah, that's right. At the same time, Leah's in the hospital. Mr. Brown is also in the hospital. And... yeah, and then they figure out what's going on. He goes to the Fishers for help because he realizes that, like, Mr. Fisher, the Fishers are probably the last hope or whatever that know something about this. So they form a plan to deal with this evil mermaid. And I have some issues with their plan. So they're like, oh, she's an evil mermaid, you know, and so we have to, in order to destroy her, we have to, the bewitched man has to stab her with silver while someone recites this enchantment, and also the girl with the medallion has to be nearby or something. It's like all these qualifiers, right? And I don't know, it was like, okay, so Norse mermaids are a thing, like Finnfolk or, you know, Shura or whatever. There's like a bunch of different names for what they are, but obviously they're a seafaring nation, so, you know, this is common. But like, if you're gonna cop this whole like Norse mermaid thing, maybe make it a little more consistent. I mean, obviously it's fiction, so I guess do what you want, but in like typically in folklore about Finnfolk, they love silver. They prize it over all else. So what you would do, instead of stabbing them with silver, you would actually just give them a pile of silver, and they would be like, oh, sick, this is great, thanks. Like, I don't care about anything else. So it's kind of weird that they're like...
Maybe you could do something that's like, oh, they really want the silver, but you have a silver dagger, and you get a cool action movie hero line. It's like, you want silver?
Yeah,
I got silver for you.
Well, yeah, and then they make
that's
this big
my stabbing noise, by the way.
Oh, then they make this big thing in the book about, oh, we need a solid silver Viking weapon, and it's like, Viking weapons were made of iron.
I need my +2 magical Viking axe, or else this isn't going to work, you guys. My attack bonus will be shit without it.
Like, copper and silver was really just used as, like, inlay or accent. I mean, as far as, you know, what I've read, like, I'm not an expert on any of this. Certainly, I'm not a fucking archaeologist or a historian, but, like, from what I've read, it just seems like some... I guess my point is, like, why make these changes and take these liberties when, like, a perfect set of lore and history is already there for you? You know, like, why make these weird changes that kind of make less sense?
You gotta have magical metals, right? To make it a real fantasy story, magical metals are a part of that.
But, like, it's already there. Like, they just like the silver. Just leave it that. Anyway, but you make a good point. It could have, it definitely could have been the, you know, final scene in an action movie. You want silver? I got some silver for you. You know? Exactly.
Your stabbing noise is a little bit longer than mine. Mine was short, like,
Well, you know, Chris, the last episode we had so much practice with
Yeah, that's true.
I've really perfected that.
Terrible onomatopoeia club.
And then there's, like, when they're in the Fisher's house and they're formulating the plan, Mr. Fisher Science Dad is like, oh, I got this sick Viking axe, and he's like... He just decides he wants to show off and destroys his own research computer with the axe.
Smash. It's just the monitor, I think. I don't think it was like an iMac or something, but like, yeah, he just like, you doubt how sharp this axe is? Check this shit out. Kablam, and like destroys his own computer.
Yeah, and I was like, I hope all that shit was on an external and like not on the actual computer.
And Sam, even Sam, I think is a little bit like, I don't think you have to go that far.
Yeah, it just seemed like it's like such an odd thing to include that people wouldn't actually do.
In a similar vein, earlier when Sam is over at Alex's place, Mr. Fisher comes down from the upstairs landing by sliding down the banister like a 10-year-old, and Sam is like, that's so cool.
Oh my God.
If you saw like a 50-year-old man sliding down a banister, even as a kid, you'd probably be like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah, that was odd. So we talked a little bit. So anyway, I guess we can finish the plot and then talk about all the other shit that's wrong with the story. So they formulate this plan to stab her with the silver thing while Mrs. Fisher is chanting, and they're all, I don't know, holding the hands or whatever, and then shove her in the silver cage. And it takes them a while to succeed. There's a big showdown where Aurelia shows her true form, like the gross, evil siren that she is. Her beauty was never real, of course, etc., etc.
Yeah, that's another thing that doesn't really get, like, explained a lot. It's just like, and she also had glamour magic.
Yeah, it's just kind of like, surprise. Because typically, mermaids or sirens or whatever will lure you in with their song.
Mermaid shit, but I just wish that there was some kind of mechanism here to explain, like, what kinds of powers should I expect from the magical mermaid.
Yeah, it's definitely kind of like a grab bag of stuff. So there's like a lot of struggling. They have this big fight, this big showdown on the lake, which was fine. They eventually get her in the cage or whatever. But then she gets out of the cage because she bewitches someone, and then everything explodes. I forget.
It's Ethan. She, like, momentarily, like, hypnotizes him to open the cage. Another thing where it's just like, oh, she just randomly has this magic power to make this moment marginally more tense for another 2 pages here.
Yeah, didn't really make sense. And then there's a point where she's constricting Sam.
She dragged him into the lake again.
And she's constricting him as though she is a boa constrictor or some kind of constricting snake. And that's weird because they don't talk about her having, like, a extra long tail or anything. And even if she does, as she's constricting him, he somehow manages to kiss her to break out of the constriction. And that just doesn't make sense to me. I don't really... unless she was constricting him with his face directly in front of hers.
I believe that's implied.
And right as he's about to black out, he somehow has the strength to kiss her, and that works. I just don't...
She's so stunned by the kiss that she momentarily, like, relaxes her grip so he can wiggle out, and then he also gets the bonus water breathing, I suppose. But, yeah, most constrictor things, they don't put their face up to the face of their prey to, like, gloat.
Yeah, it just seemed weird. It just seemed a little strange. Eventually they're able to win, but she, I forget why, but she gets, like, thrown into the lake, and the medallion also gets thrown into the lake, and they're like, well, we're all safe, even though we don't really know where she is or the medallion, so whatever.
Yeah, didn't no stabbing with any silver weapon happen?
Dude, I honestly don't remember.
I don't think anyone was stabbed.
Yeah, so
I think they were menaced with the silver axe.
Yeah, and so she, they're like, well, I don't know, she's probably... That's all set, even though the medallion and she are both in the lake.
Wait, no. Sam smashes the medallion with the axe. That's what happens.
Oh. Right. That was the whole point. Right.
Yeah,
but
okay.
But it's still...
Key thing to remember there. That's kind of on me.
Oh, no, I forgot, too. But hang on, I have the book right here.
Because, like, that's, like, kind of like the very end thing is, like, Sam's got the axe in the air.
Oh, Sagita! Hey, guys, remember that name? Remember Sagita?
Oh, that's right. How can we forget? Holy shit.
So the hawk, the fucking...
Mr. Brown's hawk that he can communicate with. And
yes.
I think has, like, even takes over the body of?
Yes. Its name is Sagita, which you may remember from Maradonia.
Yeah.
Is Sagita an eagle with a bunch of eyes in the Maradonia books? I forget. Something like that.
I think it's just an eagle.
So the eagle the hawk Sagita comes down, I guess Mr. Brown / Sagita, because Native Americans. Ugh, Christ. Comes down and, like, starts pecking and distracts her with enough time for them to smash the medallion, etc. So, sorry, I found this. So Sam lifts his arm and with one swing brings the hatchet down onto the medallion. Loud thunder erupted from the medallion as the Viking hatchet connected with it. A brilliant flash of green energy surged, blinding everyone. 100 bolts of lightning burst out from the medallion.
Oh, yeah, that part. I forgot about that.
Sam was thrown back. Yeah, because I knew there was an explosion.
Kind of a big number there.
Sam was thrown backwards from the impact of the powerful explosion. Then everything went black. Sam's ears were still ringing from the explosion's impact. As he slowly opened his stinging eyes, everything looked blurry. Right above him was his sister. She was clearly out of the trance. So they all wake up, and basically in the chaos of the explosion and the thunder and all that stuff, nobody really knows what happened to the medallion or the mermaid. A couple people, I think Alex or someone else, like, yeah, they both ended up in the lake. But then they're like, oh well, like they're just like, yeah, I guess that's over with. It's like, what? You didn't? No, it's not over.
Verify anything?
No, and so yeah, so that happens. Then there's a final chapter that implies months later that Jessica actually came into the possession of the medallion, and Aurelia actually took over Jessica.
Yeah, but I thought this was like a once in 100 years. Is it like every full moon for that year?
Yeah, so that's the other thing. And I mean, also it could just be like a woo, or because it ends with a what it definitely sounded like Aurelia, or did it? Like that's how it ends. I mean, very.
It's kind of like shitty Goosebumpsy, right? Like that's definitely like you get some of those stingery endings on some Goosebumps books. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, exactly. So very Goosebumpsy. Anyway, there's a couple other fucking weird things I want to touch upon. We talked about how the character of Mr. Brown is just fucking stupid and insensitive and like, just flesh people out. Don't write people as caricatures, please.
Yeah. It's okay to have a Native American character that might have some stories passed down through oral tradition or something. I would even allow that, depending. I'm sure that's a thing with some tribal organizations.
Oh yeah, I mean oral history. Yeah, that's very common in
But to have him show
groups.
Up with the feather staff and calling him young warrior, and he's got his telepathic communication hawk, and he's mystical. Like, why can't he just be an old dude that lives nearby that has a weird story?
I know, and it's such a common trope too in these like fantasy books for young adults, and I just think it's a shitty example. And secondly, the Romani are also there's also this like Romani caricature in the form of Mrs. Fisher, Alex's mom. She's always wearing big skirts and fringe, and she could tell something was up by his aura. And, it's just like, fucking Christ. Yeah, writing people as caricatures is just not cool. Please don't do it. It's A, uncreative, and B, doesn't accurately represent a fully fleshed out person or character, It's just, those two things really bugged me. Let's see. I'm sure I have more.
There's like mild other continuity things, or just like weird moments that point to like just how this thing could have used maybe another couple. Like a read. Like for example, when Mr. Brown and Sam are conversing at one point, like it's before they're sitting down for a storytelling session, the first one, and it says that Sam and him just stare at each other for like 5 minutes. And then Mr. Brown starts talking, which makes me think that he was waiting for Sam to start, and then he was like, oh, right, shit, oh, it's me, and, like, had to go. There's also, like, a moment where, like, Sam, the power goes out in his house, and he's got a candle that he's bringing up to his room that he blows out, and then a page later, he's reading something by the glow of the candle that he
I didn't catch that one.
Blew out. Or maybe there was other candles in the room, but it doesn't talk about him lighting any other candles. So just minor shit like this really pulls you out for a second.
Yeah, I've got another few too for like continuity errors. So there's a couple. There's like a short 1.5-page section where Alex and Sam are playing video games, and they're talking about them playing video games, and then I think Alex gets up to like open the window or shut the window or something because it was chilly, and he's like. And then they had to turn on the TV, and I'm like, you were just playing video games. Why do you have to... Wasn't the TV already on? You were just playing video games seconds before the sentence happened. What? So that was like a weird momentary continuity error. Also, Aurelia the mermaid is very concerned, like I said earlier, very concerned about being seen or discovered at all. Like, does not want anyone to even know, even have a whiff of the fact that there might be a mermaid in Moon Lake. But just decides, oh yeah, I'm just gonna come out in broad daylight in front of kids swimming in the lake to talk to you, like for one of the scenes where Sam meets up with her.
Yeah, like it's close to the party that they are at. Right? She pops her head out at the party.
Yeah.
He sees her at a distance.
He sees her at the party, but there's another scene where there are just kids swimming in the lake in daylight hours.
Yeah.
And it's like, that doesn't make sense, right? You know, if this mermaid was so concerned about being kept hidden, she wouldn't do that. And then there's I have another question about sort of Aurelia and her connection to the medallion, because it seems like she can speak through it. She can read the mind of someone who has it on. It kind of seems like she knows... Did you get the sense that she knew where the medallion was when Sam had it?
I think she definitely could, see out of it a little.
Right. So my question is, all right, when Sam found the medallion at the beginning of the book, it was, steps from the lake?
He traveled into the forest for some cover from the rain, which is where he found the old shack with the canoe in it and the medallion.
Right, but not far at all.
Not that far, I think. Maybe a few minutes walking.
Right, and in the final showdown between Aurelia and everyone, the Fishers and Sam and Ethan and Leah, she shows that she can actually get around just fine on her hands on the ground. So if she has this mental connection with the medallion and can drag herself around just fine on her hands and arms, why wouldn't she just march herself over to the cabin and take the fucking medallion? I mean, I guess it's possible that she didn't know exactly where it was, but I mean, lady, you got 1,000 fucking years to look around the lake,
yeah,
right?
And she can breathe outside of water fine, as in the cave scene, and when in the final confrontation when she's just running around the shore on her hands. Yeah. That's not the issue.
So maybe that one has a little of my own speculation in it.
Also,
so
that same thing with the hut, with the cabin in the boat, though. You and I had a mild disagreement before we started recording about whether that boat in there was supposed to be another old Viking boat, because I got the impression that it was supposed to be another old Viking boat that just no one found over there.
See, I didn't get that impression at all. I got the impression that it was just a canoe. In fact, please hold. I have the book. I can check.
Yeah. But anyway, while you're finding that passage, the point I'm trying to make is that you say, it's not too far from the shoreline. It wasn't a long trip out to it for Sam when he got out of the lake after the storm and getting caught up in the current. And no one found this lean-to before and found the medallion before?
Yeah.
Maybe the boat was supposed to be someone else that Aurelia tried to trick over the 1,000-year period or something. But still, it's... I think the justification, it's on the creepy side of the lake, so no one ever goes there to check anything. Yet, immediately, when a scientist pulls into town for the first time, as soon as he crosses the border, he gets out with the sheriff, and he's like, we gotta go investigate the far side of the lake.
Yeah, so it doesn't actually... all it says is that the structure that he finds is a broken-down boathouse. It has dull, grimy windows that have shattered glass. He sees a canoe and wonders who it belongs to. The door is hanging on its hinges. Mold and vines were growing all over it. He realizes that the boathouse must have been very old. Rotten barnacles hug the bottom of the canoe, and spider webs completely covered its interior. But there's no indication that it's a Viking vessel.
I think I got that impression somehow in a later chapter, but yeah, I'll take your word for it. That was probably me misreading something.
Yeah, but anyway,
But how did no one find it ever?
Yeah, 1,000 years is a long time for it to be. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it hadn't been in that position for 1,000 years. Maybe she had tried to trick someone before.
Yeah,
and that's where it
this is
ended up.
a 100-year-old boat or something. But no one went through there in the last 100 years and took the cool medallion or something.
I guess it's possible it could go undiscovered. But yeah, it does seem a little odd because this isn't a very large area. Anyway,
it's full of teens looking for stuff to do near a lake.
Yeah, just seems unlikely that it would have gone undiscovered. Yeah, and so the main thing I really want to talk about in terms of the whole pedophilia thing is how this sort of relationship is so common and often romanticized in fantasy books, and romance novels and everything, where it's like you have a character who is a mythical being who is hundreds or thousands of years old, and they're always romancing a teenager, often a teenager, and I find that concerning. It just, yeah.
Huge anime trope too. It's like, this young-looking girl is really a 1,000-year-old alien, so therefore it's totally fine. Yeah.
Oh, see. Oh, that's like, yeah. I guess in that sense, it's like justifying. Oh, that's like almost justifying pedophilia in the audience. That's creepy. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and whereas where I feel like it happens most often with the younger female characters and like older male vampires or werewolves or something, I just don't love that that's so normal in our fiction, in our media, you know?
I mean...
Because, like, how okay, all right. I'm 31. I'm sorry,
I can't go nowhere good, Paris. Let's go nowhere good. What are you gonna? What's the next line?
I'm saying, how interesting am I gonna be, even at 31, to someone who's 301? Like, think about it.
Yeah.
You know, like, somebody who's hundreds or thousands of years old, why the fuck would they be interested in a 14-year-old or a 16-year-old or an 18-year-old? Like, wouldn't they be looking for someone else who fucking gets them at their ancient-ass mythological creature level, right?
Sure, yeah. I mean, are you talking about Aurelia here, Paris, or just this trope in general now? Because if
the trope in general.
Okay, yeah, because if it's just Aurelia, that's like, because she wants to steal his sister's body or something.
That's very obvious, but, you know, in general, when this appears in fiction, it's usually... They're usually like, oh no, it's a real romance. They're like meant for each other.
That's always the thing that's made, like, even just like a 10-year gap, or even sometimes like 5 to 7 can be enough to.
Leave the 5 to 7 year gaps alone.
I'm not saying that these relationships aren't impossible. I'm not going to sit here and say that like a 21-year-old and a 40-year-old can't have a good relationship. It's possible. But your point of like a 300-year-old and a 30-year-old, it's a much wider gap, and it holds much more true in that why would you want to talk with someone that is a 10th of your experience?
Yeah, it just seems a little odd. I mean,
guess if everyone around you is that kind of narrows your options, right? Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess if it's a world where you're the only old-ass mythological creature, but that doesn't ever...
Yeah, usually there's other ones too, so...
Yeah, it just... Well, the problem... And again, it's like I we've had this discussion many times about the value of escapism and how much people draw from that to relate to in their real lives, and I do think if you're writing books for younger folks, it's important to maybe not include stuff like that. Like, you know, the Twilight series and all that stuff, because this, like, if you're on the younger side, so if you're a preteen or a teenager, this is when you're forming ideas of what adult relationships are. And then you're reading these books where it's like, oh yeah, this ancient vampire is just going to sweep you off your feet, and it's totally cool to date a much older man.
Yeah, what if he has cool vampire powers?
Yeah, and it's like, I don't know, maybe that's not a great thing to peddle.
I think, would it be better, I guess, at least if most of the time the character was like of, you know, a reasonably mature age, like a 35-year-old, someone that should have like equal footing with most other people in terms of maturity. Would that make it... But you don't see that. Like, I can't actually remember a thing where, like, the ancient being fell in love with the 30-year-old.
Well, right. Wouldn't it make more sense for them to be like, oh, yeah, 40 is a great age for me. Yeah,
or about, like, the wizened old 80-year-old king or something that gets it on with, like, the 1,000-year-old mermaid, because, like, at least he's seen enough shit to kind of get it. Like...
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're right. It's always this... very young, impressionable teenager for the most part, or maybe early 20s, and it's like, I don't know. I just don't love that it's so common, and it definitely is romanticized. And it's that way in a lot of fairy tales. I mean, look at Beauty and the Beast. It's like, hey, you should totally love this man who
just a Gloria
imprisoned. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to be fair, I'm talking about this concept more generally, but yeah, definitely fall in love with this man who kidnapped your dad and then kidnapped you. And, yeah, fucking Stockholm Syndrome, that shit. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know. Just, it's not my favorite, and I wish that media had better, healthier representations of adult relationships.
Yeah, well, we've got, I think, two more major points to make here, and I think I'll start with like a little slightly more meatier one here, in that obviously, hey, here we are doing our show called Terrible Book Club that usually we're like, haha, this book is real bad. But, like, this wasn't as bad as Maradonia. Like I said at the top of the show, this is an improvement for Gloria.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely an improvement for Gloria, but, like, if we look at that on a larger scale, like, on a long enough timeline...
Then, like, that's kind of what I wanted to get into here, honestly, is that, you know, I think we're fighting against a little bit, at least I am, I guess, if I'm admitting it to myself, the idea that we're not just out here to just shit on people for laughs, just to, you know, so we have content to generate here. And even if we panned your book before and we said you shouldn't have written that, continue to write. Like,
well, I don't think we've ever said that. I mean, I think we acknowledged in the books that were published under her name previously that we suspected there was a heavy hand in there that was not Gloria, and it was in fact her dad or her mom or both. So I don't think we ever said to stop trying, because we knew that she was being pressured by her family.
That's what I'm trying to clarify here. Is that it's not like I think Gloria should never write again. How dare you release something like that? Like, it's great that she improved, and if she wrote this when she was younger, it would be a marked achievement, I would say.
Yeah, I'd say, yeah, I would agree. Like, if this was something she put out as a kid, yeah, I mean, obviously it still has a bunch of plot holes and stuff that you would hope an adult editor would catch. In fact, yeah, but as a 20-something, I think she's a bit younger than us, I believe, right?
Yeah.
You know, as someone in their mid to late 20s, it's, you know, not... I would expect higher quality of editing and checking of, you know, continuity stuff.
Even if we go with my earlier points, like maybe this is good for, you know, this is like a Goosebumpsy thing for some middle schoolers or the type like that, which I think it could be serviceable in that area. So that's why I was very curious as to how Gloria marketed this, which admittedly wasn't much. It was like a book trailer on YouTube and then like an interview with her, which was just like her pointing a camera at herself with the book outside and like describing it a little bit.
I mean, she calls it I believe a fiction fantasy thriller. And I don't think I would call it
when you say thriller,
that.
it's got a higher quality or usually. I mean, I'm not saying like a lot of thrillers are like superb out there, but it's. I don't know if I'd call Goosebumps books thrillers.
Right, yeah. You are 100% right in that this reads like an early draft of a Goosebumps book that needs a couple more passes, and then I think it could be a Goosebumps-like story for younger readers. Not even young adult, because I think that might be even a little too old for this.
Yeah, this is for, like I said, this is like a middle school thing, I would say.
Middle to elementary school, like late elementary school, I would say.
But even then, like, you shouldn't like assume kids have to read stuff where people say thoughts out loud and like speaking awkward sentences. Like when I was in middle school, I was reading some pretty decent lit pieces. Like we were reading Catcher in the Rye and shit, which isn't like the best lit, but like it's a serious book with a serious subject that a middle schooler can handle.
Right. I agree with you, which is why I was hesitant to be in support of this as a kid's book. But I guess if it's going to be anything, it's going to be a children's book for kids in like elementary school. But I do want to give kids, like you said, kids deserve more credit. I was also reading, like many children read things that are more serious, have more weight, are more complex. They can handle it. And honestly, it's only going to make them better readers and better thinkers if you push them into things that are maybe a little ahead of where they're supposed to be. So I don't love the idea that children's literature has to be dumbed down like this, because this definitely does feel dumbed down in a lot of ways.
And we're still framing this as a kid's book when I don't think that's what Gloria was aiming for here.
Well, that's the thing. It's unclear.
Yeah.
I guess I should check the Amazon listing and see.
Yeah, and like, so the broader point I'm trying to make here is that I don't know if for some reason Gloria listens to these. I doubt she would, because why?
No way.
But like, continue to try to hone your craft. This was an improvement. You could do without using some samey devices, unless you want, like, I don't know, Maradonia to be connected to Moon Lake somehow with your Sagita.
Oh, sorry, there is an age level here. It is ages 8 to 18, which
Okay.
I would definitely move that a lot lower.
Yeah, okay, but it's not aimed at, like, adults, I guess, which, fine, all right. But, like, even, like, I can't imagine an 18-year-old reading this.
Yeah, this is children's sword and sorcery, children's fantasy. That's the category it's listed. Yeah, that is too high of an age bracket, I would say.
Okay. That honestly improves my opinion of this book, if it's categorized as such.
I would say it improves my opinion of the idea of the book.
Sure, yeah, well, that's kind of what I'm getting at, too. It's still... I mean, I was reading, like, if you're talking about, like, 12 and up, I was reading, like, Lord of the Rings and, like, Dragonlance shit at that point, so...
Yeah.
I would find this to be baby shit if I was,
I would, too, yeah.
Yeah.
If I was heavily into philosophy and the Marquis de Sade when I was, like, 14 through 18, so...
Yeah, not me. I was reading fan fictions, so...
I can't imagine... I mean, and not that those are, like... Anyway, I don't mean to come off sound like a fucking egotistical asshole, but point being, this is definitely for a younger age bracket than I think they're even citing.
I would agree there, but like, yeah, just next time, really look for those continuity little mishaps, and like, especially like on the summary thing with like the legends appearing there when you haven't mentioned legends yet. Yes, I can fill in with context clues, but that's not how good writing works. It like, good writing feels like it's pulling you along this thread constantly, where you don't have to like sit and reorient yourself every, handful of pages when something just seems like a record skipped or something.
Yeah. So
that's what I have to say about that.
Yeah,
I mean, we're always like, I guess we're always progressing as artists too. Like, you could find stuff that I've made that I like. So we're not immune.
Oh, same. That. Oh, absolutely. Like, I'm embarrassed by some of the shit out there with my name on it, but that's every creative person. However, I think that we both take steps to make sure that every successive thing we make is improved. And I just think that there's a little too much wrong with this at this stage in her career, I guess, right?
Yeah.
You would think that she would have enough experience
basic mistakes.
Yeah. So, yes, it's an improvement, but I still would not recommend this book to anyone.
No. You know what I do like about it? Two things I like about it. The material of the cover, the binding, is quite nice to touch. And
great.
Secondly, some of the illustrations are all right.
Oh, yeah, let's talk about the illustrations.
Yes, that's our last major point here.
All right, so, I spent...
There's a spreadsheet on
There's
this
a spreadsheet.
episode.
I made another Hey, it's spreadsheet time with Terrible Book Club. Once again, Paris made another fucking spreadsheet because she can't help her goddamn self. So I spent a couple hours this afternoon making my spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet is a list of all the illustrations that are reused throughout Maradonia and Moon Lake. Because I opened Moon Lake, I started flipping through it, and recognized one of the drawings. And I was like, oh, I've definitely seen that in a previous Maradonia book. So, just like a sequence in a real thriller film where, like, the detective starts figuring shit out in a montage, that's how I was with these. I was like, wait, I remember this illustration. And then as I'm flipping through that book, I'm like, oh, here it is. It's in this one, too. And I'm like, wait, I gotta check for other ones. And then I start finding all these connections. I start, fucking connecting the red string on the bulletin board behind me
Pepe
to the other dot.
Here.
Oh, yeah. So, I've discovered that there are so many reused illustrations between these books. It's just not okay. And the reason it's not okay is that they're reused for different things. It's not like, oh, here's King Apollyon and here's him again, so we're going to use the same illustration. It's like, here's King Apollyon and then here's some fucking demon or something, and here's Sagita, but then here's a rockin', and it's the same exact image.
Yeah.
And if you remember, Rockins were what were they, like evil battle crows or something like that?
Yeah, they were like genetically engineered battle crows, which is honestly, that's kind of a cool concept now that I'm saying it out loud, if it was executed less silly as having their leader be named Big Bertha.
Yes. And there are some illustrations that actually span 3 of the books. So we have, well, I guess, so Maradonia, the Seven Bridges, the Gold of Ophir, Law of Blood, and then Moon Lake. So there are some that are in Gold of Ophir, Law of Blood, and Moon Lake. There are a ton that are shared between Gold of Ophir and Law of Blood, including the cover of Law of Blood, which is the final illustration in Gold of Ophir. I could go on. It's just absurd.
Let's count. I mean, like in terms of reuses, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19 images that are reused at least twice, with like, I think 2 of them being reused 3 times. I think the branch moon gets used in Seven Bridges, Law of Blood, and Moon Lake, according to your spreadsheet here, which seems to me like the most egregious triple use there. Yeah,
there's just a ton of stuff. I just don't understand why you would reuse illustrations from another book for totally different places and characters and try to say that they're the same.
You're trying to save that illustration budget, even though I'm fairly sure it's still just Gloria's mom doing the drawing.
Oh yeah, it is. It's all Marina Turkolova Tesch. That's like,
yeah, I guess she doesn't want to like draw up a whole fresh new batch all the time. But like this isn't like, your favorite prog band keeps using this one musical theme like one time per album to like, give a nod to fans or something. It's just recycling, blatant recycling for just like take up space pretty much.
Yeah, that's the thing. I did appreciate that Moon Lake had so few illustrations compared to the Maradonia books, which had an illustration at the beginning of every single fucking chapter, and it was just like, why are we doing this, I
do like some of the illustrations though.
I mean, some of them are fine. They're fine.
Yeah, there's this one where it's supposed to be like Aurelia underwater. It almost looks like there's like a bunch of octopus tentacles or something, kind of like around her in like this kind of trippy look. That's like, I don't know, if I drew that, I'd be fairly proud of it.
I mean, I think that some of them are fine, but so many of them are so terrible that it really overshadows the ones that are like kind of okay.
The branch moon one is cool. I like that, but I'm a sucker for trees. I'm a sucker for decent branches. They're not even like amazing branches.
But I just think that if you're like, when you're publishing something, I just think that there should be a higher level of quality control.
It also feels like it was like, I don't know how pencil drawing works all the time, but something feels like a little bit like school notebook pencil drawing about it, and not like a really nice pencil drawing. I don't know how to describe it. It's like the pencil was always a little bit dull.
Yeah, I mean, and it's weird because some of them are decent. Like the drawing of the bass on page 209 in Moon Lake is actually not terrible.
That's fine. It looks like a bass.
Yeah, looks fine.
It's got a weird actually, I do remember one thing about that fish that I don't know if you have it in front of you.
I do.
But those fish lips look a little too foreskinny for me, Paris.
I don't know. I don't look at bass often, so I guess I'm not sure. But
I don't think there's something about that just looks a little.
Yeah, I mean, in general, I think the illustrations that maybe haven't appeared in other Maradonia books look a little better, but I don't actually think that they were drawn for this. I think they were just pulled from Marina's stash of stuff, because she has been selling her art for a long time. So
there's definitely that one picture of like Aurelia swimming through an underwater cave, because like there's a mermaid in the middle of an underwater cave, which I don't know, unless she does a lot of mermaid-specific artwork all the time.
She does. Her mom is obsessed with mermaids. That's where Gloria gets it from.
All right, well, point taken, I guess, there. I'll set aside this musket here and walk away from this hill, which I will not die on.
Yeah, so I just...
It's
hard.
The sheen of laziness still over this.
Yes,
right?
That's
the thing about Gloria's output here. There's just, you can tell that not all the effort was put in.
Yeah. Needs more effort, more editing, more care. The whole mom being the illustrator should probably...
Family business?
I don't know.
You sound so dejected now, Barrett.
Yeah, because I just want this to be over. I'm so tired of reading Maradonia-related material.
I know.
We still got one more to go. And then hopefully we're done forever. I hope we're done forever.
Yeah, because I guess this is where we can start wrapping this show up now. I mean, we can talk about some future things, which, hey, next month we're reading Law of Blood. Or not next month, like next episode, rather. You don't have to wait that long.
Yeah, we're reading
Paris
Law of
is
Blood.
currently kind of making her way through it. We have, these, quarantine book exchanges that happen sometimes where I just leave books on Paris's porch, like some kind of terrible book gremlin scamper away.
Yeah, I mean that is kind of how it has to be right now because
I have to
bum
a ride from my roommate to get that to happen.
Well, and the reason we have to do that is just because a lot of books that patrons request are not available on electronically.
And this one wasn't available in many places.
Yeah, can we talk about how we've spent more money on Gloria Tesch books than on, any other books by any author?
Number one expense of your patron dollars, which I guess is somewhat your choice, right? So.
Well, yeah, they asked, and we're providing. Terreblo is providing. But yeah, Moon Lake was, paid $20 for that shit.
Yeah.
We never pay that much for books. Law of Blood, we'll tell you how much that costs when we do that episode.
Yeah. So, take your guesses now. Over-unders.
Yeah, actually, I want to see, get your guesses in, for how much the Law of Blood cost.
And
all right,
you'll feel cool when you get it right, because we're not going to give away any. We'll send you Law of Blood.
No.
You have it, motherfucker.
No, that's a special. I can't. I think I'm just really hot right now because when we
had to turn the fan. We're suffering for you, listeners.
God, it's 2 months early where we're suffering during episodes. Normally, we're not hot and dying during episodes until July and August, but man, Memorial Day weekend, fucking bam, humidity and high 80-degree weather, or high 20-degree weather if you're counting in centigrade. But yeah, I'm just a little. I think I'm just a little sweaty.
I need some water. I need a little snack.
Anyway, if you are a $10 a month or higher patron, then you actually can request us to send you a real terrible book that we will sign and write you a nice message in. But if you are not in that tier of patrons, then sadly, we will not be sending you a book, even if you guess the right amount for Law of Blood.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think we talked about all the things that we would have to fix to make this serviceable, but it is an improvement.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not good. Don't read it, but it's an improvement.
Keep writing, Gloria.
Keep writing. Keep trying. All right. So, thank you to our patrons. Thank you, Kieran, for suggesting this book. We hope you enjoyed forcing us to suffer through The Secret of Moon Lake. We'd also like to thank Dari, Greg, Will, Veronica, D, Lynn, Sinya, Jakob, Bobby Blackcat, Jensina, Mayo Cat, Elliot, and Martin. P.S. Jared, you keep getting removed and re-added on Patreon, so you're like a half patron right now. I'm not really sure what the fuck's going on, so...
Calling you out right here, everyone. I've gone up onto the auditorium stage and asked Jared out. And if you don't fix this, we'll start screeching very loudly on the next episode.
No. I just wanted to let him know that there's something weird going on. I don't know if it's Patreon or I don't know what's going on, but you're like one day you're a patron, the next day you're not, and I don't know what the hell's going on. So thanks, half of Jared. If you want to help support the show, you can donate $1, $5, or $10 a month, or whatever amount you choose to us on Patreon. for various rewards. You can subscribe and follow us on various fucking platforms. I don't know. Tell people about the show. Give it a rating.
Yeah, YouTube,
send us a
Facebook,
message.
Instagram, Goodreads, iTunes, Podbean, Podcaster, Pod Racing. Got you with that one, eh, Ferris?
I just spit water all over my laptop.
Oh, well, I'm sorry about that. Hope it's not too bad.
Wow.
You shouldn't take sips when I'm on a roll. You knew there was a punchline coming.
Chris, you're reading the show closing. I did not. I thought it was safe. Sorry. Oh, man. All right. Well.
You can also contact us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Goodreads, or send an email to terriblebookclub@gmail.com with, just general tomfoolery. Leave a YouTube comment or something so that we stop getting just, like, spam comments. There's some legitimate comments, but there's also, like, we're getting picked up in that algorithm now where, like, the spam bots are coming out and just posting "loved it" at the bottom.
Oh, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, that's fine.
I do. You know what? I think my favorite commenter so far is Mr. Rat.
Mr. Rat is my favorite.
Yeah.
Hello, Mr. Rat.
I love your absurd comments, and I love commenting back in an absurd way.
I'm trying to figure out if there's like a pattern there, like some kind of Cockney rhyming slang that I'm not picking up on. Don't give me a hint, Mr. Rat. Just like keep doing it. I want to figure this puzzle out, and then you will send me a copy of Love. Oh, maybe if that's we could have gotten it for free that way.
Oh. Bummer. All right, we'll see you in 2 weeks for The Law of Blood, which is another Patron's Choice episode. Until then, I guess read up on your Maradonia and Gloria Tesch lore. Get all read up before we.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Code that Dark Souls remake where it's all Maradonia stuff instead.
Oh.
And send me that.
Oh, God. Oh, imagine. Oh, that would be beautiful. Actually, I like our Boston Souls idea
that's
better.
That's a side project that will never come to fruition, but I can have a dream about that.
Oh, me too. Yeah, if any of you are good at coding mods for video games, let us know. Because we have some
we'd love to fund a project.
Yeah.
With patron money.
No, with our personal money.
Yeah.
But anyway,
See you later.
Wow. Yeah, bye. Fuck
Bye.
off.